Hey, good morning. Patricia Murphy here. It's Saturday. This is Seattle Now. Today we're bringing you the best from the KUOW Newsroom. First, for two families in Seattle, this past Christmas is one they'll always remember. They came together after an immigration arrest left one family stranded and facing deportation. Another mom who heard what happened decided to take them in. Liz Jones brings us a story about this unexpected help for a family in crisis and where they go from here.
About an hour after the kids get back from school, everyone is taking a little downtime.
Tanto, lío, chico.
Alejandra and her 7-year-old son snuggle on the couch, reading. Her 11-year-old daughter is resting.
Capítulo 4, buscando lío.
¿Y el capítulo 2?
Ya se leyó, vamos aquí.
The quiet doesn't last long. Soon the kids are playing tag through the hallways or plucking at the piano and guitar in the front room. Alejandra and her kids are temporary house guests at this home in a tree-lined South Seattle neighborhood. The host mom here, Karina, shows me around her home.
This is the kitchen.
This is the chicken nugget kitchen.
We eat a lot of oranges with tahini.
Karina is a nurse and a single mom, and it's typically just her and her 2 teenagers living here. But more than a month ago, Karina heard from a friend that ICE had detained Alejandra's husband, and she was afraid to return to their apartment.
Without a hesitation, I was like, they're coming to my house. They're coming tonight.
Karina and Alejandra had only met a couple times before through a mutual friend. The arrest happened 3 days before Christmas. Alejandra's husband was coming home with presents. He pulled into their apartment complex in Tequila, where a lot of immigrants live, and says ICE agents spotted him in the parking lot. When he called Alejandra from detention, he said ICE officers there forced him to sign self-deportation papers and told him they'd be back to the apartment in 4 days to detain her and the kids. On that call, they decided they'd all return to Venezuela together and that Alejandra should quickly pack up their life and apartment here.
There was so much urgency. And we just started quickly sorting things. What do you want to keep? What are we donating? She was feeling a lot of urgency about sending money to Venezuela.
Alejandra's family came to the U.S. in 2023. They applied for asylum, saying military police threatened to kill her husband. They followed the legal process and attended court hearings and check-ins until a judge dismissed their case. That removed the immediate risk of deportation, but they would have needed to file a new asylum application to keep the process going. It's unclear if that happened.
Que nuestro propósito era que los niños estudiaran.
Alejandra says the idea for coming here was so the kids could study, so they could become someone in life. But if God decides that we should return, then let it be His will.
Que sea la voluntad de él.
We're not using Alejandra's full name or Karina's due to the family's legal status. A lawyer who reviewed Alejandra's husband's case says he has no criminal record, and it appears ICE picked him up based on suspicion that he's undocumented, a tactic a federal court recently approved. It's possible the family could still apply for some legal option to stay here, but after more than a month in detention, the husband says he doesn't want to be stuck there any longer. ICE did not respond to questions about his case. Alejandra's son holds a guitar on his lap. He first played one at school here in his music class. As students, both kids have thrived here.
I do flag football, volleyball, track, soccer, and basketball.
This is Alejandra's 6th grade daughter.
And I have track. I'm starting the 27.
She catches herself as she mentions that future date, knowing their bags are packed. She says she'll miss her friends here, friends who helped her learn English.
I have a lot of friends, and they're from other countries. So I have a friend that's from Russia, Ukraine, Mexico, Italia.
It's not the first time she's gone through this type of goodbye.
So when I was 4, we moved to Peru. So Peru, Lima, Brazil, Venezuela, Venezuela here.
She seems at peace with the return to Venezuela, even though she's barely lived there.
When I feel like home, real home, I feel my country.
And that's Venezuela.
Yeah.
but her younger brother burst into tears at the news they were leaving. Partly, he didn't want to return the way they'd come, a month-long journey, including 3 days in the jungle to cross the Darien Gap. In Venezuela, political instability, violence, and economic collapse have forced millions to leave in the past decade. Alejandra says if they feel unsafe there, or if the kids are not able to get a good education, they'll leave Venezuela again, but not back to the U.S.
Yo no siento que me estoy haciendo daño a mis hijos, yo siento que yo le estoy haciendo yo a mis hijos.
Through tears, Alejandra says, sometimes I tell my husband, that's it. I want to be done with all this moving around because I feel like I'm hurting my children.
Yo le he dicho y le he
But if we
inculcado
have to
que
keep moving, she
para donde
says,
él-
we'll go all
él
4 of
vaya,
us, together as a
tenemos que
family.
¿saben? Como una familia que somos. Y en cada país
And in
trata
each country, we start from scratch
lograr una
and try to
cosa.
achieve something, little by little.
Sí, cada vez.
Alejandra and her husband cobbled together work here. He delivered food through DoorDash, and she cleaned houses. In these last few weeks, Karina and Alejandra have done what they can to cushion the family's next landing. Karina has taken them to various medical appointments, got the kids glasses, helped them ship money and packages to Venezuela. One prized item they sent is a PlayStation for the kids, a symbol of this hard-fought time in America, bought with money they earned through their jobs. Living together, these 2 moms have grown close. Karina says it was an easy choice to open her home to Alejandra's family.
Because it's the right thing to do, and my heart is absolutely broken by what is going on.
Y estoy muy agradecida, ¿sabes? Muy agradecida por todo
Alejandra
lo
says,
que
I'm
mi
so
amiga
grateful
está
for
haciendo por
everything my
nosotros,
friend
por
is
mis
doing
hijos,
for
por mi
us,
familia.
for my children, for my
Muy
family.
agradecida.
She was like an angel.
Ella fue como un ángel, ¿sabes?
But a departure date looms. After a month of Alejandra's husband waiting in detention for a hearing, a judge granted his request for voluntary departure. So now he'll wait in custody for a flight out. While we talk, Alejandra's daughter has set up a domino maze on the floor, going around in a circle. She sets it in motion, but the path is not a smooth line, and she jumps in with a helping hand to keep it going. I'm Liz Jones, KUOW News.
Next, University of Washington staff and students are required to take a new civil rights training. It's part of a voluntary agreement with the federal government after allegations of unchecked antisemitism on campus. Ann Dornfeld looked at what the training teaches.
The university is one of several nationwide that have agreed to mandate campus-wide civil rights training in response to federal investigations into discrimination, especially antisemitism. UW professor James D. Long let me follow along as he sat down to take the new staff course.
Okay, understanding civil rights.
Long teaches political science. He says he wishes the UW had offered such training sooner because, while he's familiar with federal and local civil rights laws, not everyone on campus is.
Civil rights are fundamentally about access, equal opportunity, and inclusion.
The training talks about anti-Semitism, like a swastika scrawled on a university wall, but it gives similar weight to discrimination based on age, gender, and sexual orientation, and less obvious forms of potential discrimination, like political speech that feels hostile to someone in a protected group. These issues peak during campus protests against the war in Gaza at the UW and schools nationwide. In the spring of 2024, pro-Palestinian activists camped for weeks on the UW Quad, calling for the university to cut ties with Israel. The U.S. Department of Education launched dozens of anti-Semitism investigations after some students said UW and other universities let pro-Palestinian demonstrations devolve into anti-Jewish harassment. Some students said the protest created a hostile environment for Jews on campus and reported finding swastikas in dormitories and anti-Zionist graffiti.
President Anna Mari Kause called some of the graffiti, quote, clearly both anti-Semitic and violent.
Muslim students reported harassment too. Professor Long said he's glad that the training includes how civil rights law protects free speech on campus and that free speech cannot cross certain boundaries.
There could be a situation where, the encampment disrupts other people's learning. This has not been talked about enough recently, not just at UW, but bigger picture.
Although federal anti-Semitism investigations of colleges have dramatically increased under the second Trump presidency, the UW came under scrutiny during the Biden administration. The university acknowledged no wrongdoing, but it agreed to revamp its civil rights practices, including making it easier to report suspected violations and requiring this new training for staff and students. Graham Wright studies anti-Semitism on college campuses at Brandeis University's Cohen Center for Modern Jewish Studies. His nationwide research shows that a relatively small number of students and staff are responsible for the majority of overt anti-Semitic harassment.
If your entire university was punished because of what a small number of students or faculty said, one of the dangers is that it could actually reinforce anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about the secret Jewish power. So it could actually make things worse.
Wright says students' perception of anti-Semitism includes both overt discrimination as well as alienation if they have emotional connections to Israel, regardless of their feelings about the Israeli government. But UW professor Dan Berger says it's problematic to frame pro-Palestinian, anti-Zionist protests as anti-Semitic. He's a member of the UW Jewish Alliance, which is critical of the Israeli government.
There's a very cynical and very dangerous use of anti-Semitism as a kind of political football to achieve reactionary ends that we are fundamentally opposed to.
Professor Long says he can see potential drawbacks of UW's new civil rights training, too.
There can be a demotivating effect on people. Like, all I do is get inundated with information like this that I'm just going to become completely disengaged.
He says it could also lead to people over-reporting potential civil rights violations. UW staff are required to complete the civil rights course by early March. The training for UW students is expected within the next few months. Ann Dornfeld, KUOW News.
And finally, we'll head down to Olympia for a proposal in the state legislature that would help more military families qualify for the state's free preschool program. In 2025, the Evergreen State was home to more than 56,000 active duty troops. And for those who are parents, it can be hard to access affordable childcare and early education. KNKX reporter Mitch Borden has more.
If you've ever stood in a preschool classroom like this one in Bremerton, it can seem a little chaotic. But these 3- and 4-year-olds are learning a lot as they play games. On the day I visit, it's alphabet bingo.
K. I have one. No, K. What about you?
Now, a bipartisan group of state lawmakers is aiming to help more children from military families get into classrooms like this one.
How about a Z? I have a no.
Washington State's Early Childhood Education and Assistance Program, or ECAP as it's more commonly known, helps low-income students attend preschool for free. Along with helping with academics, the program provides meals and medical screenings. Education advocates like Joel Ryan are pushing for the program to include children that have parents who are in the armed forces because they face a lot of challenges.
I was surprised about the depth of poverty and the limited resources that are available to a lot of military families.
He's the executive director of the Washington State Association of Head Start and ECAP. Ryan points to evidence that many military families face food insecurity. Young kids can also struggle when a parent is deployed. He says ECAP can help with these problems, but a lot of military households make too much to qualify.
They're making just a little bit more than the cutoff that ECAP allows. And so we're creating a little bit of flexibility so that those families will be able to enroll.
The legislation being considered by Washington state lawmakers would expand ECAP's eligibility requirements. Depending on space in a classroom, it would allow higher-earning military families into the program, but there would be an income cap based on the state's median income. For a military household of 3 to qualify for ECAP, they would have to make less than $6,000 a month. If passed, this bill isn't expected to affect the state budget or increase ECAP's operating costs. Shannon Turner says opening up the program to more military families would be a big improvement. He lives in Bremerton and served in the Army for around a decade. He's a father of 4 and says whenever he was deployed, it was incredibly stressful.
You're always concerned about, well, how is my wife doing? How's my son? Is my family being taken care of? Do they have everything they need?
Turner says he knows from firsthand experience that it can be hard for lower-ranked service members to make ends meet. Turner started as a private in the Army and worked his way up to being a sergeant.
There's times we had to go to food banks or a church to help get funds to kind of help pay the rent. It's definitely hard.
High prices in Washington can be an issue for people moving here from areas with a low cost of living, according to Maria Tobin. She's with the South Sound Military and Communities Partnership, which advocates for military families and communities near Joint Base Lewis McChord in Pierce County.
They get a stark reality when they come here, recognizing how expensive the gas is, how far away they're going to have to live, how much groceries cost here.
She says expanding access to ECAP could free up time for military spouses to get a job.
It's not only the educational component, but it does allow military families to have that second income.
It wasn't until after leaving the Army that Shannon Turner learned about ECAP. He was unemployed at the time, so his family qualified. Turner enrolled his daughter, and it didn't take long before he saw how the program was helping her come out of her shell.
When I would go and pick her up, the smile on her face and getting the hug, it's like, oh, Daddy, this is what I learned today. Oh, Daddy, here's a friend. Can we go over to her house so I can play with her?
Along with preparing his daughter for kindergarten, Turner says the program's medical screenings found that she was having hearing issues and helped her get the care she needed. He says ECAP was life-changing for his family. And now he wants state lawmakers to make it easier for other military parents to get this support for their kids. I'm Mitch Borden, reporting.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thanks to our generous donors for your support. Help us out by clicking the link in the show notes and following and rating the show on your podcast app. Our production team includes Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, Andy Hurst, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.